So we are looking at this 2-point perspective sheet, how to draw a city block using perspective. And I'm just going to read through this and then we'll get over to the demo. The sheet here says 2-point perspective is a form of linear perspective, that means line perspective, in which two vanishing points on a horizon line are used to create the illusion of a 3-dimensional space on a 2-dimensional surface. So kind of what we were practicing in 1-point perspective, except for now there's 2 dots. And this is going to walk us through the steps of how to do it. And then I'll show you how to do it in the demo too. Okay, so step 1, draw a horizon line. Again, your horizon line is a line at eye level where objects and lines recede, the line on which the vanishing points sit. Step 2, place 2 vanishing points on the 2 ends of the horizon line. And it doesn't have to be all the way to the 2 ends. You can go kind of a little bit in. That's what I'll do on my demo. And the vanishing points are, of course, the points where receding lines converge and the point where objects and lines disappear. Step 3 says add a vertical line intersecting, that means going through the horizon line to create the corner of the building. Step 4, add 4 receding lines going from the top and the bottom of the vertical line to the vanishing point. So here's my vertical line, and I've got a line going to my left vanishing point from the top, a line going to my right vanishing point from the top, a line to my left vanishing point from the bottom, and a line to my right vanishing point from the bottom. Then it says erase the horizon line once the building has been placed, because we won't see that anymore, of course. Looking at step 5, it says use vertical lines to create doors, windows, and define individual buildings. Connect all other lines to the vanishing points. Erase unnecessary lines leading to the vanishing points. Create alleyways and sidewalk lines connected to the opposite vanishing point. So the sidewalk on the left side of my drawing has lines going to the right vanishing point, and the alleyways on the right side of my drawing have lines that go to my left vanishing point. You can even see that on my road dashes. The width is determined by the vanishing point on the right, and the height or the length is being determined by my vanishing point on the left. And we'll show you how that looks in the demo here. All right, and then I know you can't fully see it on my screen, but the second page just says 2-point perspective, apply your knowledge, create your own city block using the steps on the back of this sheet, add detail and use your ruler, which is what I will be showing you. So that's the read through, and I will give you a demo. All right, we are looking at this 2-point perspective page and working on our city block, and it's going to be a little bit different than our city block last week. This one is going to have a corner facing us, and it's like we're standing at the corner of a building or an intersection, where last week it was like we were standing here. We were standing and looking at the front of the building with the building horizontal to us. Now we've moved to the corner of the intersection using 2-point perspective. So let's see how that's going to look. Make my horizon line, drawing kind of light, make my 2 vanishing points. It's going to go through my horizon line. Okay, so that's going to be the front corner edge of my first building with this new line. Just like our 1-point perspective, with every vertical line we make, we have 2 new points, but those 2 new points now need to go to both vanishing lines. So my bottom point needs to go to my right vanishing point and to my left vanishing point. My top point needs to go to my right vanishing point and my left vanishing point. And then just like we practiced with 1-point perspective, we're going to use vertical lines to make the edges of our buildings or the width of our buildings. All these lines inside here are extras that we can get rid of, so I'm going to erase those all. So I've got that first building there. Just like the packet shows, I'm going to show you how to make these 2 roads going away from each other, and then I'll show you how to get some extra buildings in there, and then the windows and doors. Okay, so if I want to make sidewalks and roads, I'm going to decide what I want that width to be down here in front of me, and I'm just going to mark that. This is how wide my sidewalk's going to be, so my sidewalk's going to be a little bit wide. And then from that point, I'm going to go back to my vanishing point this way, to the right, back to my vanishing point on the left. If I want my sidewalk to be right here along the edge of this front building, I could use that line again and bring it back. That sidewalk go back there, right side, and then my sidewalk is going to have depth to it. All right, so I've got my depth going on down my right side, find my depth on my left side, so touch the bottom edge of my sidewalk, touch my left vanishing point, bring that line back, and I've got my depth of my sidewalk going back on the left. If I want to make the little lines that go back on the sidewalk, I'm going to give myself a bunch of new points, and these would be the vertical breaks. I would get closer together as I go back in space, and then I can take these new points at the tops here. You can kind of check it too, because if I try to take this point to my right vanishing point, it's not going to go anywhere. That's just the depth of the sidewalk, the height of the sidewalk here. Not going to change anything, so that's going to tell me that I need to go this way. I need to go to my left side if I'm on the right side. Pull this first one here to my next one, touch my left vanishing point, back here, still touching my left vanishing point, all the way back. I'm going to do the same thing going to the right. Check this first one, and he was a little bit narrow, so we'll bring him out here on my my first one meet there. Scoot the second one back just a tish, and then everybody should be lined up from there. Touch the top of my tiny vertical line here, point right at the top, touch my right vanishing point, and bring that line back to the edge of my building, all the way back. And you notice as you go back in space, these lines are really flattening out because they're almost lining up with your horizon line. They start at kind of a deep angle and then they flatten out as they go back in space. So I've got my first building, I've got my sidewalk. If I wanted to add some dashed lines down my road here, I would figure out where I want that dashed road line to go. Line coming forward for that. Choose my width down here. How wide do I want those dashed lines in front of me? Pull back to my vertical line like that. And now I think I want to end my road actually over here. So I'm gonna make another line going back to my vanishing point. Same thing here, the width of my road first, these dash lines coming forward. It's the first edge of the dash line, second edge of my dash lines coming forward. And now to cut these off, can't just do horizontal lines like we did in 1 point perspective, because that would be goofy and not quite right. It almost looks right, but it's not quite right. So what we actually need to do is take where we want these each to end back to our opposite vanishing point. So if I'm working on the left side of my road, I need to take my ends of my dash lines to the right vanishing point like this, kind of just pivoting my ruler. And as I move back in space, things are getting smaller and closer together. My dash lines are getting shorter, and the space in between them is getting smaller as well. I'm going to erase all my extra lines. Alright, and then same idea, heading back on this side. However short or long, I want to make my dash lines on this side of the road. Touch my left vanishing point on the right side, and get rid of my extra line. Alright, if I want to make other buildings back in here, same idea. Make a vertical line that goes across my horizon line. 2 new points here. Those 2 new points need to go back both vanishing points, so the top one needs to go to the right vanishing point and to left, and the bottom one needs to go also to the left and to right. I can use vertical lines to choose the width of my buildings. I've created a little alleyway in between them here. I can erase all the lines I don't need, so these extra guidelines and the horizon line inside there. I'm going to stick one more building back here. Okay, so when I'm working on this new building here, vertical line, each of these new points back to my vanishing point. And so I've got my 3 buildings that I'm going to work with here. You can make more buildings. So let's talk about adding windows and doors on these. If I want to add a garage door, I'm going to start with vertical lines. Now my door isn't opening in this direction, so I don't need to go back and cut it off with a vertical line over here. That's going to feel like 1 point perspective. We're just working on the right side of our building, so we're going to the right. Now, if I want to open this space up, if I want to be able to drive into this, like this is like a car wash or something, then I would take this point down here, and that would go to my left vanishing point like this. Alright, and now I can drive in there in that space. Same thing if I want to make like a big sign here, make that vertical line where my sign is going to go, take it down to my vanishing point on the right side, because I'm working on the right sides of my buildings, and cut it off with a vertical line here. Now if I want this sign to have some depth, like it's like a wooden sign, it's just not a flat piece of paper sign, this vertical line here and bring it back. And then I can put a window up above here. Vertical line to get yourself started. And then I'm working on the right side of my building, so I'm going to go back to my right vanishing point. Add some of those fancy little dash lines that tell us it's a shining window. Just like 1 point perspective, if I want to add a little frame around it, just that little vertical line that follows back to my vanishing point, or you can kind of cheat it in if you're going and staying really close. Shadow underneath there. If you want your buildings to look more convincing, putting a little shadow along the edge. All these details are what make things look more convincing, which we've talked about before in class. The more detail I can add to something, the more convincing it's going to be. I think I want to make this brick building, or this bike wash building, have bricks. So just like we practiced before, a bunch of points up my vertical line that are going to tell me where my bricks are going. Bricks on the right side of my building are going back to the right vanishing point all the way up, and then bricks on my left side of my building are going to my left vanishing point. And then to cut them off, I'm going to use those vertical lines just like we did for 1 point perspective. So that's how I would do bricks and windows down my buildings. If I had bricks or windows or doorways on this building back here, it still follow the same rules. Big vertical line for the height, it's on the right side of my building, so it's going to my right vanishing point. Vertical line to cut it off, so I can see how that would just be like a window or a sign on that side of the building. If I want this space to open up, I could do something like that, where I've brought this inner corner back to my left vanishing point, and then this new line here I brought across to my right vanishing point. It's a little bit opposite of what we are practicing down here because it's above the horizon line. That opens up that space there if I want to put a little like guardrail in front there, keep people in that space safe. A new line on my vertical line here to my horizon line, and then just some vertical lines for these when you have a gate like that up there. If I want to open up a space down here on my left side, we're doing lots of open spaces. Doors are just vertical line. I'm on my right side, so I'm going to my right side vanishing point. Another vertical line to cut it off. Little service door back there. I want to open up a space on this left side, vertical line. I'm on my left side, so I need to go to my left side vanishing point. And then if I want to open it up here, I'm going to take the far corner to my right side vanishing point. That's going to open up that space there. And I can just keep adding details from here. So I'm just going to keep working on this. I don't know if I'll do a lot of narrating, but you guys can slow down the video if you need to see how to do something specific. Anytime I create a new vertical line, I need to check and see if I can take that back to both of my vanishing points. Anytime I want to cut off something widthwise, I want to use a vertical line. If I'm working on the left side of my drawing, things should be going back to my left vanishing point. If I'm working on the right side of my drawing, things should be going back to my right vanishing point. If I want to make a new building or a new post or anything like that, I need to take back to both vanishing points. So like if I want to put a stop sign here, okay, I've got my vertical line for my stop sign. The posts for stop signs have a little bit of depth to them, so I need to take that back to my vanishing point on the right side and on the left side. And so as you're working on stuff, guys, just remember that anything that you can add more detail to is going to look more and more convincing. Anytime you've got like a kind of just one single straight line like this, thickening it up or giving it a little bit of that line variety that we talked about, changes from thick to thin. Anything that you draw should really have, unless it's something painted on the road or painted on the building, it should have some dimension to it. So unless it's like a flat 2D thing, it should have a little bit of shadow, a little bit of edge. So like all my openings here are part of a 3D building, so it should have a little bit of edge to that object. So I'm going to just keep adding details here. I probably won't narrate too much of it. You guys can just slow down the video if you're not sure how I did something. So as I'm racing through this, I want you guys to remember anytime I make a new vertical line, I'm going back to the vanishing point. Anytime that I'm making details, I'm using what we learned in that space packet where we have more details and texture and shading closer up front, and that gets lighter as I head towards the back. I can use placement to more clearly tell about space. Anytime I'm adding new details, I'm going back to both of those vanishing points. And I know this is really speeding through, but I want you guys to keep in mind that this drawing probably took me about an hour and 15 minutes. And so it'll likely take you just as long, if not longer. It's speeding through this really fast, but certainly slow down, certainly pause the video and take your time so that you can get it right. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, good luck.